that don't know me, I'm J.R. Arthur, aka the Pixel Monkey, and oftentimes I talk about stuff that has to deal with the mental aspect of things and also the emotional aspect of things in the creative space. And sometimes things come to me because it's things I've been through, and sometimes it's things that I've gotten because of colleagues that I spoke to or friends that I speak with, and they give me topics. Or it's just somebody that I'm mentoring, and something that we talk about sparks my next video that I bring to you. And I call it WTF. And sometimes you have those WTF moments where you have a project or you have a client and you know everything needs to go the way it should go, but it doesn't. Things just don't tend to work out. What ends up happening is one thing goes wrong, then the next thing goes wrong, and then before you know it, it's like you can't find the way out. But what do you do when that happens? How do you handle it when you come to those things? Who do you look to? Where do you go? Do you give up? Do you keep trying? Well, in my opinion, it's like quicksand. Once that one thing goes wrong, you try to correct it, and then something else seemingly will go wrong. And before you know it, you've gone down a path of everything is just not working out. And then all you can do is sit back and say, what the f is going on? Now we're gonna get into what that really means and how do you work through it. I'm gonna try to keep this short, but there's not always a way to keep it short. So here you go. First and foremost, what is a WTF moment? Because you may have not experienced this yet because you're new to the industry, you're thinking about getting into the industry, and the grass always looks greener on the other side when you're entering into things because one, you probably saw the salary, two, you might have flexibility, and three, since the pandemic, a lot of things in the creative field are now virtual. So you're able to work from home. So that in itself looks great. But the things that you don't see is all the things that can go wrong in doing that. One, the money, yes, it can be good, but you have to work to the point where you can get it. So until you get to that level, you may not get it. So that is already your first WTF moment, is the financial part of being a creative. You were expecting a salary or you were expecting an hourly rate that you didn't get. You're trying to negotiate it, you're trying to work to get it, but your client isn't budging, or the full-time job that you're applying for doesn't have it in the budget to give you more, or they don't feel like they should give you more right now. Well, now you're stuck. Or are you stuck? You could easily go somewhere else. You can do the work and kill it and then earn it that way. But in the meantime, you still have bills to pay. You still have all these other things that income that you're asking for needs to do. How do you fix that? Well, you can't always. You sit back and you look at your finances, you look at all these things and you're like, what am I doing? And now you're feeling a certain kind of way because it's stressing you out. You're getting frustrated because you know that you should be able to get it. Well, it's not always true. Sometimes you got to work for those things that you want. But how do you get through it? Well, this is how you get through it. One, you kind of have to accept the fact that you didn't get what you were asking for, or you have to walk away from the client or the job. And in some cases, you can't afford to. But don't take a rate or a salary that's so low that you're giving your services for free. Take something that still gets you through what you need to do, and it gives you a spot where you can work to it. Also, don't go in so high that there is no room to work forward, because sometimes you can shoot yourself in the foot by asking for way more than what you need, and then you're stuck because they'll never be able to really give you a raise. You'll never really be able to get that higher hourly rate because you've gone so high that all people can do is either match it or just let you go. You'll hear this in the creative field where people will say, ask for what you're worth. What are you worth? Because there is really no monetary value on your time and on you. You can make up a number, yes, but that's not truly what you're worth. But ask for what you need, and sometimes get a little bit more. So once you've done that, that is now the first thing that you've gotten out the way. So now you have those other what the moments, which in this case, we're gonna say the WTF moment. And one of those WTF moments is you've now gotten a project, it's bigger than you are, because there should have been like 4 or 5 people working on the project, but you're the only person who got stuck with it, or you're the only person who can do it, or the budget isn't big enough to hire all these other people to get it done. There are things you can do to survive this. First, don't stress out, because that will ultimately work against you. Try not to get overly frustrated as well. And don't get down on yourself. If you have to, take a couple hours, take your first day of the project and just assess the project for what it is. Put it into a perspective that makes sense to you. Go, what needs to be done? How much time do I have? And what can I do in that time with the scope of work? Now that you've done that, that WTF moment is looking a little bit clearer. You're having a path where you can just go, now let's go ahead and knock it out the park. And when I say knock it out the park, you may not be able to go above and beyond. You may have to use plugins. You may have to use assets that you've created before. You may have to do a lot of things that speed that up or give you the other areas that you needed people to help you with, and now you don't have them. So you have to do things to make that easier for you. But you can't do that if you can't wrap your head around it. And you can't wrap your head around it if you don't take the time to look at what the project for what it is. Don't let anybody who's giving you the project, whether it be a client or your boss or another coworker or a partner, give you a project and then tell you, this is what we have to do and that's all it is. Have a discussion. Say, this can't reasonably be done in this time, in this budget. You have to be able to speak up for yourself as a creative, because if you don't, people will walk over you. What people often think, and when I say people, I'm talking about our clients and our bosses. What they often think is, we push this magic button and boom, there goes the project. And that's not typically how it works. Don't get me wrong, I would love that button. That's like in the Staples commercial where they hit the easy button and it just seems like everything works. I wish we had something like that in the creative space, because if we did, I would push the button. But the problem with that is, if we had that, then everybody can do it, right? And then we can't get paid what we want to get paid. Then we don't love it the way that we loved it, because now it's accessible to everybody. What makes us creative professionals is the fact that not everybody can do what we do. They can learn it, yes, but we develop a certain skill and technique and movement and motion in how we do things that is our personality coming to a screen or coming to print or coming to a photograph or coming to a painting. It's coming to something that we're delivering to a client or our job. So that's how you get through that part of the WTF. Take the time to go over the project, see what it is, and then keep moving. Then your other WTF moment is, say you're working on a team and everybody's supposed to have a part, but they're not pulling their weight. And ultimately it's slowing you down because you can't even do your part until somebody else hands it off to you. Now this one is very common in the creative space. I work a lot in video. I worked a lot in web and print graphics. In the video space where I'm at now, what often happens is there's a sound guy, there might be the guy who films, there might be the guy who composites. And then you need everybody's assistance at some point to make sure that all this comes together and goes out the door. What happens when your part is held up by the sound guy or your part is held up by the compositor? And no matter what the creative space is that you're in, just apply those different areas to your part. Well, this is what has to happen. You could just do their job for them, but what if you don't know how? You could just do their job for them, but then you're not going to get paid for their part. So what's going to happen is you're going to get angry. You're going to get stressed out. You're going to get super frustrated, and you're going to break the relationship that you have with your team because you're feeling like you're doing more work than you had to when you're supposed to be working in a collective group. So how do you handle that? That's what we really want to figure out, right? Is how do we handle it? Well, one, why can't you just go talk to them? You can. Go talk to the person that's in that spot. Go into it and say, is there anything that I can do to help speed this along, because I need your part to go ahead and start my part. Find out what's going on, because you don't know what happened. They could have just had an off day. They could be having technical issues with their computer. Something may not be working that's slowing them down, but they didn't communicate that to you, so you don't know. You also don't know because you're not asking. And should they just tell you? Probably. But when you're going through a problem, you oftentimes don't want to just have somebody over your shoulder that you have to dictate everything to. The other thing you can do is you can go to your producer, your manager, your creative director. If you are the creative director, then you kind of have to figure that one out by talking to your team. But you can go to all these people. But I will tell you this, going to the person above everybody else is a very slippery slope. If you go to somebody else, it may piss somebody else off, because what happens is now they might get reprimanded, or they might feel like, well, you could have just came and talked to me and we could have figured this out together first before you went here. Like, give me a heads up to let me know that there's a problem. There's nothing worse than feeling like you've been stabbed in the back. There's nothing worse than feeling like I'm on a team, but I can't trust my team because you won't even come talk to me. If you know that there's something going on, if you know that things aren't falling in line the way you need them to, open the doors of communication. And then that can solve that WTF moment for everybody, not just you, for everybody. And then the team gets back on track. We've talked about 3 different situations that are like WTF moments, but this is one that may hit some people and not hit everybody. In case you didn't notice, I'm a black guy, and a lot of my friends look like me. Some have long hair and are prettier people because they're women, and some just don't look like me at all, but they know what I'm going through. But this is a big WTF moment for me and some of the people that I deal with. What do you do when you feel like your holdup is not your skill level? It's not the fact that you can't do the work, it's how you look. And this can be taken in a bunch of different ways. One, it could be taken as it's harder to get things done as a minority in the creative space in corporate America. Many people have had that conversation. I hate to make it a black or white thing, but it is the elephant in the room. It is the thing that we don't talk about. It is the biggest, in my opinion, WTF moment that I have ever experienced and probably have ever had in my professional life. And the thing is, the people that are pushing against it don't always know they're pushing against it. But when you look around and you see that other people are advancing and you're not, and none of them look like you, some of them started the job and only have been there like a week and you've been there like years, or you know they can't do what you can do, but they still seem to get promoted, it doesn't always mean that they can't do stuff too. And don't get me wrong, be happy for anybody that gets promoted. But at the end of the day, you want yours too, because you got to feed yourself. You may have a family to feed. You may have a girlfriend that needs something. Like, you have responsibilities, so you want to be able to advance. Nobody wants to sit in a seat for years and never be noticed. I don't need my ego stroked, and you may not need your ego stroked. But what you do need is to be compensated for what you do. Nobody wants to work for free, and it's not okay. But how do you get past that? That's a question that has been fought in many avenues. It's a question that opens up the door to so many things that we don't have answers for necessarily. But what you can do, and it may not always help, is look at where you are and look at yourself and see what you can do different. Because sometimes you can turn the tide of how people think and how people see you. It may just simply be how you dress. If you want to be in a higher position, maybe you can't wear the t-shirt to work. Maybe you've got to take the hat off. Maybe you can't have bracelets on. Maybe your watch needs to change to something a little bit fancier because you're going to be client-facing. Or maybe it's just what you know. It could just be the knowledge that you have. If you're not management material right now, but that's what you want to work towards, then you have to learn how to deal with people, right? Do things that make you more presentable and make you more recognized to other groups of people. You have to do things to put yourself in people's faces. And sometimes for some people that may be threatening. Sometimes for some people, they may not like it, but you have to do what you can do too. Don't just sit back, be mad, and be like, what the fuck is going on? Because at the end of the day, you could only do what you can do. But if you do nothing, nothing happens. It would be like a basketball player saying, I want to score 25 points in this game, but never shoot the ball. You will miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So put some up, see what happens. I'm not saying play the game. I'm not saying swallow your pride. But what I am saying is don't let those WTF moments keep you down and keep you in spaces where you don't want to be. You can change the tide of what's going on, and sometimes you can't change it where you're at. Sometimes you just have to move on and realize that somebody else will notice you. Somebody else will get their process right. Somebody else will fix a team. Somebody else will do what the other places and other clients and other bosses weren't doing for you. I hate to say that the grass is greener on the other side because it's not always. Sometimes it's just different. Or it may be better for a while and then you get the same old thing. But if you keep getting the same thing, place after place after place, and project after project after project, and client after client, and boss after boss, at a certain point, look and see if any of it is you. Don't blame everybody else for the things you can change. But you can't change those things. You won't know to change those things if you're always looking for somebody else to be the problem. Sometimes that WTF moment should really be a YOU moment. And if you don't know what that was, it ultimately is you. It is only you. You control a lot of what goes on. Make it happen. Do something about it. I didn't ask you this at the beginning of the video, but I will ask you this right now. You've watched this video at this point. If you like what I'm saying, or if any of it makes sense, or if any of it hit home, or you think there's just other things that this opened up the door to, please like my video. Please subscribe to my channel. Like, you, my audience, keep me going. You keep me flowing. But also what keeps me going is the crap that I go through, or the good things that I go through in my career. I've been a lot of different things. I've wore a lot of different hats, and I've had way more WTF moments than I can count. And these are only a few, but these are the ones that I've had conversations about recently with people. So I felt like I wanted to bring it to you, and hopefully you got something out of it. Until the next time, until the next video, drop a comment. I'll respond. I love to see what you all are saying, or what you want to know about, or what you want to talk about. Please, let's have that conversation. Also, I'm on Instagram at pixelmonkey _designs. We're gonna wrap this video up. I'm not gonna do the short wrap up like I usually do, but I will say this in closing. I will say this, so please don't click off yet, just listen. If you're having those things that stress you out, you're feeling frustrated, or you're getting down, or you've been upset at your job, and you're ultimately like, what? Instead of looking at everybody else, take a step back. Like, take a literal step back. Like, step back. Get away from whatever it is you're doing. Assess the situation, move forward, and then say, how do I handle this one? Because sometimes trying to fix the problem while you're in the problem makes you sink quicker, because you're just trying to patch that one thing, and that one patch now opened up another hole, and then another hole, and then another hole, where if you had to step back, you can smooth the whole foundation. I'm glad that you kept with me. I'm glad that you watched my video. But I will tell you this, if you want more like this, check out the other videos that I've already done. But then tune in on Mondays at 9:30 in the morning. That's when I post them, and see what else is coming out that may be for you. And also, don't hesitate to share them. Other people may get something out of these videos. But until next time, stay creative, keep pushing, Stay stress-free, and most of all, have fun doing what you're doing. We didn't enter in this business to be overworked. We entered into it to create cool stuff and make money. So just do that and try to be happy doing it. No more WTF moments, at least not this week. And when you do have them, now you know how to approach some of them. Thank you for rocking with me.